Ukraine agrees to an immediate one-month ceasefire in war with Russia, proposed by the US following talks in Saudi Arabia.
Experts and environmentalists are warning of devastating environmental consequences after an oil tanker and a cargo ship crashed in the North Sea.
Greenland opens its polls to around 41,000 eligible voters for its parliamentary elections. 7 healthcare professionals working alongside football legend Diego Maradona are on trial for alleged homicide by negligence.
Ukraine has agreed to accept a US proposed immediate 30-day ceasefire in Russia's ongoing invasion of the country. According to a joint statement, Kyiv's officials expressed readiness to accept the US proposal, which can be extended by mutual agreements of the parties. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the ball is now in Russia's court.
Today we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. Hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball is now in their court.
Of course, we're ready to do everything to achieve the peace.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration said it would immediately lift its suspension of military support to Ukraine and its intelligence sharing with Kyiv. The deal marks a significant change of tone between the US and Ukraine, with both countries now signaling they are on the same side in the ongoing negotiations.
Portugal's minority government lost a confidence vote in Parliament, forcing its resignation and prompting the European Union country's third general election in 3 years. The government's fall marks the worst spell of political instability since 1974, when Portugal adopted a democratic system and ended a dictatorship. A string of minority governments have been unable to forge alliances that might ensure the administration completes its 4-year term without being brought down. A new election, likely in May, pitches millions of Portuguese people into months of political uncertainty. The Portuguese government asked for the confidence vote amid a simmering political crisis that is focused on Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, revolving around potential conflicts of interest in the business dealings of his family law firm. Romania's constitutional court unanimously voted to uphold a decision rejecting ultranationalist Călin Georgescu's candidacy in upcoming presidential elections, sparking a fresh round of protests by his supporters.
Now, this decision is final and cannot be overturned according to Romanian law, which left his political allies scrambling to find a suitable replacement in time, especially since raising the required number of signatures to register a new candidate might prove to be a challenge.
Last weekend, Romania's Central Electoral Committee suspended Georgescu's application, stating his actions and statements contravened the values of the presidential office. Dubbed the TikTok Messiah, Georgescu came out on top in the first round of Romania's presidential elections last year. However, the country's constitutional court annulled the vote following the declassification of intelligence reports showing Russian involvement in influencing voters through social media to support the then relatively unknown candidate. Georgescu is also facing criminal proceedings, including anti-constitutional acts and misreporting his campaign finances.
Experts and environmentalists are warning of devastating environmental consequences after an oil tanker and a cargo ship crashed in the North Sea. The jet fuel that poured into the ocean is highly toxic to marine life.
There's an irony that crude oil is the least toxic of the oils that get spilled into the oceans. And there are bacteria, there are microbes that break down the crude oil. When it gets to things like refined oils, like the jet fuel, that has a much higher toxicity. If you like, it's concentrated by the refining process. And so the impact of that on life in the oceans will be devastating.
On Tuesday morning, the fire that burned for more than 24 hours on the oil tanker was largely extinguished. The Dutch company Boskalis has been asked to salvage the tanker.
Dat betekent dat het eerste wat we nu gaan doen is met name ook met temperatuurmeters op schepen die we daar gemobiliseerd hebben. Dichter bij het schip komen om proberen temperatuur te meten. Dat mogen we nu ook. Tot nu toe mochten we niet in de buurt van het schip komen, met name ook niet in de buurt van het containerschip. En dat had alles te maken met giftige gassen die daar mogelijk vrijkwamen.
The collision triggered a major rescue operation which was called off late on Monday with 1 out of 37 crew members still missing. British police arrested a man on suspicion of manslaughter as they searched for answers about the cause of the crash. An investigation into the crash is being led by the US and Portugal, the countries where the vessels are flagged.
Greenland opened its polls for parliamentary elections on Tuesday. Around 41,000 people are eligible to vote and 31 lawmakers will be elected. Several parties are participating in the election, including the left-wing party Inuit Ataqatigiit, led by incumbent Prime Minister Mute Burup, and the Simut, which has led the parliament in the past. Unofficial election results are expected soon after 10 o'clock this evening. Greenland occupies a strategic location in the North Atlantic, halfway between the US and Russia, and contains rare earth mineral primal in driving the global economy.
Hundreds of student protesters blocked Serbia's public television station building in Belgrade on Tuesday as tensions soared in the Balkan country days ahead of a planned large rally. The protest at the station came as President Aleksandar Vučić appeared as the main guest on Monday evening's RTS News Bulletin. The students accused the broadcaster of biased coverage of the anti-government protests, with one journalist calling the students mobs. After Monday night's demonstrations, hundreds of people gathered outside the television station on Tuesday, and a similar demonstration was organized in Novi Sad, the country's second largest city. Serbia's almost daily protest began in November when part of the newly renovated Novi Sad railway station building collapsed, killing 15 people. Protesters say the incident highlights systemic corruption in the country. Vučić has described the rallies as a Western orchestrated ploy to oust him from power.
The European Commission wants to extend the Made in Europe tag to medicines. A proposal presented this Tuesday aims to tackle shortages, especially for essential drugs such as antibiotics, insulin or painkillers. Now the EU is highly dependent on third countries, mainly in Asia.
So this initiative represents a significant step forward, as I say, to ensure that these essential medicines remain accessible, affordable and available to all Europeans who depend on them.
The plan is to boost the investment for manufacturers both of essential medicines and key ingredients in the European Union.
So it's definitely a good step. We're moving towards sovereignty in terms of a less dependency on other continents and other countries on the delivery of medicines. We're moving towards greater access for the people of Europe for affordable medicines.
European Health Commissioner Oliver Varhelyi's self-imposed 100 days in office deadline was fulfilled. But for some MEPs, the proposal was too rushed and turned out to be not enough.
This is not going to bring back medicine production to Europe. This is not going to solve the problem, neither for the patients, neither for the pharma industry. So it's really a deception and is the proof if something is too much rushed, it is not fulfilling the expectation that we need. We have a lot of challenges to face in order to fight shortages of medicines.
Financing the whole plan remains now a key issue, according to some MEPs, but also to several EU health ministers, who believe critical medicines should be under the scope of a future defense funding scheme.
Con la prueba que se produzca en el juicio, ustedes, como jueces del tribunal interviniente.
Former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte has been arrested by the police in connection with a case of crimes against humanity. Duterte was arrested at Manila's airport on Tuesday on the order of the International Criminal Court, ICC, after arriving from Hong Kong. The surprise arrest sparked a commotion at the airport where lawyers and aides of the former president loudly protested. The ICC began investigating drug killings under Duterte as possible crimes against humanity more than a decade ago.
As Guatemala's volcano of fire erupted, authorities evacuated 300 families, while warning that another 30,000 people in the area could be at risk. The eruption started overnight, with the volcano spewing gas and ash far into the sky Monday, leading authorities to close schools and roads connecting communities. Policemen and soldiers blocked the trails leading up to the volcano to prevent tourists accessing the area. The biggest danger from the volcano are lahars, a mixture of ash rock, mud and debris that can bury entire towns. Guatemala's disaster agency said the flow of volcano material is weak to moderate, but expected to increase.